Every day, millions of people suffer from mental health issues and are too afraid to seek help because they don't want to be looked down on. We need to break this stigma and start talking openly about mental health issues. Hello, my name is Brent Puccio, and today we're going to talk to a few people suffering from mental health issues. Our first guest is Kayla Miller. So Kayla, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Kayla.
That gives me anxiety.
That gives you anxiety? Well, so what kind of things do you like to do for fun?
I like to play video games.
Okay.
And I like to watch TV.
Okay. How long have you suffered from anxiety and depression?
Well, my psychiatrist said that I've always suffered with it, but I think when I was little, I didn't know I had anxiety until I was actually diagnosed with it. So, and I was diagnosed 6-7 years ago.
Is there anything that you do that helps?
It depends. I am medicated, but my medication currently is not working, so I have to be put on a different medication. It's really hard to find things to stop anxiety because it's always against me. So sometimes if I'm having like a panic attack or if I feel my anxiety coming on, kind of mean, but I tell myself that I get mean inside my head to myself to tell myself that pretty much what people say to people that have anxiety that don't understand anxiety. Oh, why don't you just get over it? I try to be that person to myself, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The only thing that actually usually works is any medication type stuff. I can't really, it doesn't go away by itself.
So it needs to have the medication?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. How is it? Because I'm sure it wasn't kind of like one and done where you tried one medication and you were kind of cured. So tell me a little bit about that process of kind of trying the different medications and how you dealt with that.
I've been on 5 different medications now. I was on one in particular for 2 years, and it turned me into just a zombie. The ones before that, I had really bad side effects, physical side effects, body twitching, things I called zolts, where your body just like gets like a jolt of electricity. You get brain jolts. My body would randomly just like start shaking uncontrollably, kind of like a shiver, but like your brain feels like it's on fire. I got that with a specific medication. I'm allergic to that one. I just kind of went through different ones, and then I finally starting one in particular. Am I allowed to say what ones? I was on Paxil for 2 years, and it was fine in the beginning, and then like halfway through my first year, everything turned off. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I wasn't like miserable. I wasn't angry. I wasn't excited. I didn't love anything. I didn't love my family. I didn't love myself. I would go to work and I would go home and I would literally just lay in bed. I wouldn't watch TV. I wouldn't play on my phone. Like, I wouldn't do anything. And my boyfriend at the time, we weren't doing well at all, and we started fighting a lot, so I wanted to get off of it to see if that would help. And it took me 6 months to wean myself off of that medication, and it had the equivalent of heroin withdrawals. Getting off of it, I wanted to die the entire time. I called my mom one time, telling her that
it's okay.
Telling her that I wanted to die. And she called she was working at a doctor, like a hospital at the time, and she asked one of the doctors what I can do, and he helped me more of like a regiment, time frame of how to get off of it. It was still really hard, but I got off of it.
Yeah.
And then so after that, I became paranoid, and I was constantly jealous over everything. I had really bad anxiety all the time, and I was super clingy because I was scared that everyone around me was going to leave because I finally came off the medication. And then my boyfriend at the time, he broke up with me via a note. He wrote me a note and left it on my bed so that when I got home, all of his stuff was gone. And that's how he broke up with me. And he would always blame me for like all of the problems. And I know I had a lot of problems, but I didn't think I was that bad. And then after that, I actually still didn't get back on a medication because I wasn't seeing that doctor anymore that prescribed me earlier because I was terrified to be back on something.
Yeah.
So I just kind of dealt with it, but it just like got worse and worse and worse and worse. And then it turned into physical anxiety. So now I have to be on it. I can't not, because I don't even know how to explain to you what it does to my body, but it feels so weird where like it's an impending doom. Like it feels like the world is about to end constantly, and I get like super sick, like stomach sick, and so now I have to be on it. I don't want to be, but
Yeah. Has it helped being on the new medication?
well, this new medication doesn't work.
Oh.
I recently found that out from another doctor who's not even a psychiatrist. They were like, can't really tell you this, but you should probably see a new psychiatrist. Because I told them the medication I was on, and I'm on lamotrigine, and that's for seizures and for bipolar. I'm not bipolar. So, and my heart rate has been constant on and off for the past 2 weeks. And, but I have an appointment in January. Hopefully I can get on something better. Everyone says Zoloft is where it's at, so I'm going to try Zoloft.
So, if you could give like your friends and family any advice to kind of help others like yourself who deal with kind of these mental health issues, what would that be?
If I could give advice about what they should do to help people who have anxiety.
Yeah, so like how to communicate with people with mental health issues, because I know there's that stigma, like don't talk to them at all or just kind of ignore them, or like walking on eggshells and stuff like that. So from being someone that suffers from this, like looking on the outside, what would you give to kind of your friends to like help other people with mental health issues so we can kind of start breaking the stigma and start talking about these kinds of things?
Ask them questions, because there are a lot of different people who suffer from anxiety different ways. Me, I'm someone where I'm okay with talking about it, and I'm okay with explaining to you what is wrong with me and what my triggers are and how I react. But I do also know a lot of people where people do have to walk on eggshells around them because the smallest little things that they can't control trigger them. So it's all about asking and just talking to them, and there's so many people out there that don't understand anxiety, and it's really hard, and I don't want to cry anymore, Brent.
We can pause it if you want.
I don't know, it's just, it's annoying because people who I'm close with, they don't understand, and they think that it's okay and that you can just get over it. but it sucks. And like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
No one wants this. So it's frustrating because you want them to understand like how you feel, but at the same time, like, it's selfish because they don't understand. So it's like it's a lose-lose situation. If there's someone out there that doesn't understand and they're not willing to understand and they're not, willing to be selfless and like take a step back and be like, okay, so this person is suffering from a mental disease. How can I make sure to understand them and take the time to realize what they're actually going through and be patient with them, because not many people are. They just, oh, they'll be fine. You can get over it. Why are you upset about that? Why is this bothering you? Why are you, why is your heart rate doing that when there's nothing going on around you? I don't have control over it, and that's what's really frustrating, is that you have to pretty much just be like, I can't control this, so I have to get over it, but like, then you can't get over it because you can't control it. It's literally a vicious cycle. Like, there's no way around it. So, it's hard.
Well, I appreciate you, Kayla.
I know.
Is there any kind of other thoughts or things that you'd like to say, like for kind of bringing awareness to kind of anxiety and depression, just kind of mental health in general for people that don't understand?
Always wear waterproof makeup? No, I don't know. I mean, like what I said, we're all human beings, and not all of us are the same, and no one ever is going to be the same. Every single person, as we grow and learn and experience things, it all alters our entire being, even our chemical side with our brain, how we think, what triggers us. So just be a nice person. Just be kind to people, and don't instantly think, oh, this person's fine, they're just having, an anxiety attack. There's so much more to it, and so many people overlook it and think that it's just this small little thing, and it's not. I wish it was. I wish it was a small little thing that you could just get over, but that's not the case. So, just from what I've dealt with in the past, and just people not taking the time to realize that, and to not be nice and be kind, and if people could just do that, that'd be cool.
From the outside, many people don't look like they're struggling with any issues, but just like in Kayla's case, you never know what people have going on the inside, so always try to remain humble. I have another special guest named Bob who is going to share his story on his mental health journey with us as well. All right, Bob, so thank you for being here today with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm glad to help.
Yeah, so Bob, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Again, my name's Bob. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I lived there until my mid-20s, and then I moved to Virginia Beach. I lived there for about 10 years. I've been in the collection business most of my life, and I actually opened a collection agency, and I had my own business for about 3.5 years before I decided to get out. And I moved here to Arizona, and I've been here for about 3 years, and now I'm in insurance.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So, how long have you suffered from anxiety and depression?
I would say probably since, honestly, I've been 9-10 years old, and it's one of those things. I come from that generation, and again, I'm not that old, but I come from a time to where you didn't really talk about it it's kind of a new thing to be open with it, and I think a lot more people have a little bit more of an understanding than they did maybe 20 years ago. But it's something that I have been suffering with pretty much my whole life, but not really took the steps to take care of it and get better.
So I know you kind of brought up how it's something that people didn't really talk about. So how do you feel like with the kind of stigma about how men are raised to not show any type of emotion?
It's a real thing. I think that, it's a lot of people are very proud. A lot of people are very private. A lot of people don't want to upset their family. And a lot of times people perceive it as either you're lazy or you're not engaged. But I think it's really important and that we open up and talk about it, because it's never going to get any better, and if you look at the statistics, a lot of people are dying out there, and it's a major problem. So I really think that, and again, before I went to therapy and was admitted into the hospital, again, it wasn't something that I felt really comfortable talking about, but then going through it and being in a group setting and having to open up in front of people, it really opened my eyes to see that, men, women, doesn't matter color, race, everybody goes through it. And it's important to have a dialogue, because, a lot of people suffer and think that there's no one out there that understands. We got to change that.
Now, is there anything that kind of helps kind of ease that pain from like the anxiety and depression?
Well, what I suffer from mainly is manic depression, and also bipolar, and suicidal ideation a lot of times. And for me, it's kind of like when you have a rash and you keep scratching, it gets worse and worse and worse the more you scratch it. Unless you put something on it like cream to make it feel better. So that's where the counseling comes in. That's where the medication, which is really only 20% of it, 80% is the talking to somebody and seeing a therapist and seeing the right psychiatrist. The medication is just a small part of it, but it is an important part. But as far as how I cope every day, that's what you go to therapy for, is to get coping skills and figure out mindfulness and how to stay in the moment rather than looking too far ahead or too far behind, or getting into that mania stage to where things just kind of, you don't think rationally, but and I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a rant here, so
No,
please just, what was the original question again? I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, Bob. It was, because I think I went off script for that one.
How do I cope?
Yeah, how do you cope with it, or kind of deal with it, or what kind of things do you do for fun to kind of help take your mind off things?
Well, honestly, I got a dog, and that was the number one thing that really helped me, because, it gives me a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me something to say, all right, well, if I'm not going to take care of myself, I got to take care of this dog. So it gets me going. Another thing is I do try to play guitar. But, when you go through your moments, you don't pick it up. But, and a lot of it, they say, is exercise, which I have some health issues with my back, so it's hard, and that's one of the things that they say really helps is exercise and diet. But those are two things I'm still working on, like everybody else. But there are steps you can take to help, And a lot of it is just a chemical imbalance with serotonin. So the way that serotonin's released is through medication, exercise, diet, keeping your mind off things. But for me, it's more like things trigger it. And then when things get triggered, it kind of just goes downhill from there. But those are the kind of things I try to do. And again, I'm a work in progress every day. So some days are better than others, Those are just some of the things I do.
Awesome.
I try to do.
Now, if you could give like your friends and family any advice on like how to treat people with a mental illness, what would that be?
Listen, be understanding, and don't be quick to judge. And I think that, like, it was hard for my father, and he said, my generation, we just snap out of it, you just pick yourself up and keep going, and he says he never suffered from depression, he just doesn't quite understand it. But as I went through it and going through the steps, I should say, as far as getting better and addressing it with doctors in the hospital and everything else, it really opened up his eyes to see that it was not just snap out of it situation. And he's a recovering alcoholic, and he says he didn't suffer from depression. Well, newsflash, you suffered from depression, you just dealt with it with alcohol. And, so it's been going on for decades and centuries, and it's just people would call it different things, and but I think you have to be patient. You have to understand that your feelings matter. No matter what you think other people may think and how ridiculous it is, your feelings matter, and you matter. And that's the biggest thing. I have a lot of self-image issues. I have a lot of issues as far as self-confidence, and I have a problem saying no a lot of times, and it all comes back to not loving myself. And even now, I don't say that I always love myself the way I probably should, but I'm working on it. And I think you have to give yourself a break and know that you are important, and you have to love yourself and love the people around you, and things will hopefully get better, but you have to, again, and learn how to say no every once in a while, and be able to not try to please everyone, because it's impossible. And a lot of times, if you are a people pleaser, somebody that goes that route, it's going to drive you insane after a while, because you just have too much built up, and then that's when the bubble bursts, and that's when you get into your mania states, so things like that. So a lot of it is, and also not taking work. So, you take work serious, but, not to the point where it's going to make you sick, You have to have everything is in balance. It has to be balanced, and if it's not, then, for someone like me, I need routine balance. If I don't have it, then, things go out of control.
Well, I appreciate kind of you coming down here and kind of answering all these questions and kind of trying to help talk about it and get kind of the ball rolling on kind of mental health and anything. Are there any other thoughts or advice that you'd like to add kind of before we finish?
Well, there's a lot of resources out there. People need to know the resources, and, for someone that doesn't know where to start, the best thing to do is just pick up your phone, pick up a phone book, go to your, maybe your job can help you, but reach out and just talk to somebody. Let them know how you feel. Let them know what's going on. You're not in this alone, and, everybody is going through it. There is millions of people that go through this that are undiagnosed, don't know what to do, and a lot of it is just not knowing where to find the resources. You know, because there was a point where, you know, I couldn't get out of bed, I didn't know where to go, you know. Suicidal thoughts are just constant in your head to the point where it just won't go away until you actually act out on it, because after a while, when you think suicidal thoughts over and over and over, it gets more normal feeling in your head to where, you know, you get that much closer to doing something, you know. So if you even have one thought, talk to somebody, go see somebody, work it out, because again, it does nothing but fester, just like that rash. It gets worse and worse and worse if you go undiagnosed, and you know, you can lose a lot. I mean, I almost lost my job because of it. You know, and things that set me off were like, I got a promotion, you know, and I won an award and things like that. I'm not used to that kind of recognition, and I'm not used to, I don't feel I deserve it. I almost feel like I'm a fraud, you know, like I'm going to get figured out. Like everybody around me is so much smarter than me, and I'm just some poor kid from Buffalo, you know, that really doesn't have much of an education, and, you know, so, you know, not feeling worthy kind of put me in a spot to where I started to run a little bit, you know. I was getting in a state to where I just was ready to just go move out in the middle of the woods by myself and just kind of get away. And that's a problem too, is, you know, when you suffer from this, you start things and you don't finish. And, you know, there's a lot of things that you start and you never see the finish line to it. And, you know, then you look back and then you realize, man, that's another thing that, you know, I'm a real piece of shit for not, you know, but, and, you know, I mean, I was even on a final notice at work because I couldn't show up to work some days. I just couldn't mentally, physically, and it's almost like if you had a rash like on your face, you feel like people can see it and people know, and, you know, you're like, I can't leave the house, I can't talk to anybody. I mean, I went like years without talking to family because I figured I wouldn't be here much longer, and honestly, they're going to know just by talking to me something's not right, and I don't want them to know, you know. So I would, you know, kind of stay away a lot and avoid a lot of people and avoid the world, and just not go out for weeks at a time, not shower, you know, all that stuff, that eat just ridiculous amounts of food and just get, you know, just depression, man.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, but, you know, honestly, I think just having that support and having people that understand around me, it's the reason I'm here today. You know, I honestly wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for people that cared for me. And it does open your eyes to see that people do care, and you're not alone in this. So again, make sure that if you need help, seek it. It doesn't make you less of a person, less of a man, less of a woman. It's a disorder. It's chemical. It's a lot of things. It could be something in your past. It could be a lot of things in your past that maybe you just kind of buried and never really talked about, you know. But talk about it. Get it out there. Therapy's important. I think everybody should go through into therapy, even if you feel like you don't have quote-unquote issues. It's something, it's just like exercising. It's just like, you know, doing your annual checkups. I think it's important. Everybody should maybe even look into it a little bit. But, you know, I think mental health is one of those things now. It's just more important than a lot of other things that people feel are important. You know, I think it needs to get right up there with, you know, what are we doing to cure cancer, and what are we doing to, you know, prolong life and, you know, cure AIDS completely and all that. We need to get it up to that level because it is a big problem.
I agree. Well, thank you, sir. And I'm proud of you for being here and everything, and
I appreciate it.
Making it this far. And I know self-love is a big kind of thing with people, and you are worth it, Bob. You are
I
worth
appreciate
it.
it.
And thank you for kind of doing this and kind of being vulnerable and showing other people that they're not alone, because that's kind of the big thing, and it's together in numbers. So.
It is, and I appreciate you having me, and I'm honored to do this, and even if it helps one person, it's all worth it to me. I mean, I hope it helps more and opens people's eyes. You know, I'm just a normal dude like everyone else, and, you know, if you saw me on the street, you would never know. You know, just like everyone else that you see on the street, don't assume everybody's just, you know, it's okay to, you know, how's your day going? You know, is everything all right? You know, how are you doing? You know, be genuinely concerned about people, because you never know what they're going through. And we need to start just being nicer to people, I think. I think it's going to start there, is just being nicer to people, not being so angry. Even on the way here, this guy, there was an accident and I had to get in, and he was so angry. And I'm thinking, man, I hope everything's okay in his life. I hope, you know, he's doing all right. You know, he's angry at me, and that's okay, but it's something else, and I hope he has a good day. You know, I hope whatever's really upsetting him, I hope he gets help with it and figures it out. But, you know, he was pretty angry, but, you know, people just get that way, and, you know, just don't assume everything is just fine, you know.
From the outside, could you tell that Robert and Kayla were suffering from mental health issues? I know I couldn't. So many people suffer in silence and are afraid to speak out. Together, we can make a difference. We can change the world just by raising awareness to these issues and being open and non-judgmental to others. Every one of us is eventually going to die, and we're going to have 2 dates and a dash on our gravestones. So be kind to everyone you meet. You never know what somebody else is going through. And you need to make the most out of your life right here, right now, because that little dash is the moment that we're currently living in. You only got one life, so you might as well make the best of it.